My best friend died on a Sunday and left me a lakefront lodge worth more than I'd earned in 30 years of welding. By Friday, the daughter who put me out on the street 7 years earlier was standing on my new porch in sunglasses that cost more than my truck. Her husband grinning beside her like a man closing a deal. "We'll be taking the main house," he said. "You can have the bunkhouse out back." I let the screen door knock shut behind me, looked the two of them dead in the eye, and said 3 words that turned them both to stone. "Read the will. Stay with me to the end of this one, friend." Because what my old friend Hollis tucked into that desk drawer turned out to be a whole lot more than a deed. The phone rang at 6:20 on a gray October morning, and I almost let it go. I'd been awake since 4 anyway. The way I'd been awake since 4 most mornings for 7 years. Sitting at a fold-out table in a one-room apartment above a laundromat in Toledo. But something put my hand on that phone, and I'm glad it did. Earl Doyle. The woman's voice was careful and kind. The way people sound, right, before they rearrange your life. "My name is Ruth Calloway. I'm an attorney up in Marlow, Michigan. I'm calling about Hollis Vance." My chest went tight before she even finished. Hollis and I have been friends for 41 years. Since we were 2 broke kids welding holes at the same boatyard. And nobody calls a lawyer's office about a living man. "He passed 5 days ago," Ruth said. "A stroke in his sleep. He didn't suffer." Then, gently, "There's more, Mr. Doyle. You're his sole beneficiary. Hollis left you Stillwater Lodge, the main house, the boathouse, all 90 acres on Hawk Lake. I want to tell you why a man my age was living over a laundromat. Because you're probably wondering how somebody works his whole life and ends up with nothing. I was 57 when the yard shut down after 31 years. Gates closed with 2 weeks' notice. 6 months later, my heart quit on me in a grocery store. And the surgery that saved my life cost more than insurance would cover. I'd already given my savings away by then, $28,000 to my daughter Hannah. And her husband Trent for a down payment. They swore they couldn't manage without me. Another chunk to bail out Trent's contracting company the first time it went under. Money I never saw again. When the medical bills came, there was no cushion left. I'd handed it to my own family, brick by brick. I drove to Hannah's house that spring, hat in hand, and asked to stay in their basement until I got back on my feet. Trent didn't even ask me in out of the cold. "We've got the kids to think about," Hannah said, arms already folded, already rehearsed. Trent mentioned a motel on Route 9 with reasonable weekly rates. Hannah stared at the floor the whole time. My grandkids watched from the stairs and didn't wave back. They'd already learned from their father how to look at me. 7 years of silence, and now I was supposed to believe in family again. The drive north took most of a day. I half expected the whole thing to be a mistake. Then I came around the last bend through the birches, and there it was, Hawk Lake flat and silver, ringed in dark pine. Stillwater Lodge on a rise above the shore with green shutters and a stone chimney. A long dock reaching into the shallows. Loons called from the far side. I stood in that gravel drive and felt something crack open in me that had been sealed shut for 7 years. I stayed 4 good days before the cars came. A black SUV and a glossy pickup towing a brand new bass boat. Hannah climbed out in big sunglasses, looking the property over like an appraiser at a foreclosure. Trent got out grinning, already comfortable, already mine. "Place looks even better than the pictures," Trent said. "We heard about your friend," Hannah added. "We're so sorry." A lie. And we both knew it. "Why are you here?" I asked. "We came to help," Trent said, spreading his arms. "This is a lot of property for one guy your age. We'll take the main house, perfect for the kids. And you'll be real comfortable in the bunkhouse." The bunkhouse. They'd looked at this whole shining place and already decided which shed to put me in. "We could be a family again, Dad," Hannah said. And for half a second, the loneliness in me wanted to believe it. Then I looked at Trent's face at the certainty in it and knew exactly what this was. "Read the will," I said. "Hollis left this place to me. Alone. Now get back in your truck." "You're being ridiculous," Trent snapped. "An old man can't run 90 acres by himself. You'll lose it and come crying to us. That's my risk to take." It becomes our problem when you fail. We're trying to keep this in the family. You weren't worried about family on Route 9, I said, and that shut 'em up. They loaded up with a lot of slamming doors. But at the end of the drive, Hannah got out and walked back alone. Trent found out about the lodge from your cousin Dale. He's been planning this for 2 weeks. I didn't know how to stop it. Then stop it, I said. She looked at the floorboards, same as 7 years before, and got back in the truck. Watching the dust settle, I knew it wasn't over. People who smell $3 million don't quit after one no. Going through Hollis's papers that week, I found the first letter, wedged behind tax receipts in the roll-top desk. My name on it in his blocky hand. Asterisk girl, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've got more than a lodge on your hands. You've got the wolves that come sniffing whenever there's something worth taking. I know what your girl and her husband did to you, and I know they'll try again the second they hear my name in a will. So I made arrangements. Keep looking. Asterisk the second letter was in the boathouse, inside an old tackle box. Hollis had hired a private investigator on a standing retainer. Kept working even after he was gone. Asterisk because that's exactly when they'll make their move. Asterisk the folder laid out Trent and Hannah's finances in cold numbers. Trent's business was a sinkhole propped up on 3 loans, behind on payroll. Hannah was carrying $40,000 in credit card debt just to keep up appearances. Asterisk they're drowning. Earl, asterisk Hollis had written. Asterisk, and to a drowning man, you don't look like a father. You look like something to grab onto. Asterisk the third letter pointed me to a safe deposit box. Inside was a codicil that hadn't been made public. Stillwater Lodge couldn't be sold, subdivided, or borrowed against for 5 years. I had to live there alone, where the whole thing would pass to a conservation trust. Hollis had also set aside a decade's worth of taxes and upkeep, so nobody could squeeze me out by claiming I couldn't afford the place. At the bottom of the box sat one more sealed envelope. Asterisk open only if needed. Asterisk they came back 3 weeks later with reinforcements. Trent's father Gary, loud in a sport coat, and a slick young lawyer with a briefcase. Hannah trailed behind, snapping photos of the buildings. We're here to discuss the welfare of an elderly man living alone on a high-liability property, the lawyer said smoothly. There are real grounds to contest a will like this, Trent said, pulling out a folder. A court might decide you're not competent to be out here alone. Or we settle this like family. We move in, we partner up, everybody wins. Otherwise, you're looking at lawyers, years, bills you can't pay. Give me a minute, I said. I need to get something. I went inside and broke the seal on that last envelope. Hollis's final note was short. Asterisk if they're talking lawsuits, show them the photographs. If they're crying poor, show them the bank statements. And if they're claiming you've lost your mind, play them the recording. Asterisk inside were photographs. Trent at a casino 3 states over, cashing chips. Trent signing for a $9,000 fishing boat in cash. Hannah walking out of a department store with bags on both arms. A small audio recorder sat beneath them with a note from Ruth. Asterisk captured at the Marina Bar, June 14th. Asterisk I walked back onto the porch. Calm as a man going to check the mail. Trent, how's the contracting business? Fine. Why? Because these papers say you're underwater on 3 loans. And these, I held up the photos, say you spent a summer at a casino and bought yourself a boat with money you keep telling everybody you don't have. The color ran out of his face. Hannah stared at the boat. You told me that belonged to a client. Then you'll love this, I said and pressed play. Trent's own voice filled the porch, loose and laughing. Asterisk once we get the old man signed over as incompetent. That shoreline carves into a dozen lots. We clear the debt, I keep the boat. And the old fool can rot in a county home for all I care. Asterisk the loons were the only sound out on the water. Hannah made a noise like she'd been struck. Gary's mouth hung open. The lawyer quietly clicked his briefcase shut and stepped back. You planned this, Hannah said to her husband. It wasn't a question. You've been planning to put my father in a home and sell his land. Babe, I can explain the casino. Explain why our son's college fund is empty. And you've got $9,000 for a boat. I did it for us, Trent said, and even he didn't believe it. No, I said quietly. You did it for you. There's a difference, and your wife is finally hearing it. It all came apart on my porch after that. Gary hustled to his car. The lawyer was already gone. Trent reached for Hannah's arm, and she pulled away like he was made of fire. Get in the truck, he told her. She didn't move. Take the kids' things out of your truck, she said. I'm driving them home in mine. They left in 2 vehicles, headed in 2 directions. And I had a feeling they'd never arrive at the same place again. I learned the rest in pieces. Trent hadn't just been gambling. He'd been seeing a woman from the marina bar for the better part of a year. When the truth landed, it landed all at once. Hannah filed for divorce. Trent's business collapsed for good. The bank took the house they'd used my savings to buy. And the woman from the bar stopped returning his calls the day the money stopped. I felt tired and old. Sorry not for him, but for the girl I used to carry on my shoulders. She called on a Sunday afternoon. Dad, can I come see you? Just me. Trent's gone. The house is gone. I don't have anywhere to be. She came up alone the next day, looking like she hadn't slept in a week. He cleaned out the joint account before the lawyers froze it. She said on the dock, I've got the kids in a rented 2-bedroom. I'm working a register at a grocery store. And I keep thinking about that day on Route 9, Dad. Now I know exactly what that felt like. What do you want from me, Hannah? I don't know. Forgiveness? A second chance? Somewhere for the kids to be that isn't a rented room? The old Earl wanted to throw the doors open right then. But I'd learned the price of that. I can't let you live here, I told her. Hollis tied this place up tight. I have to live alone or it's gone. But more than that, I won't be grabbed onto again. I gave until there was nothing left. And you stood by while your husband threw what was left of me out the door. I love you. You're still my girl. But love isn't the same as letting it happen all over again. She nodded, crying without sound. I'm not finished. There's a man named Pete Renner across the lake. His wife passed, and he needs a winter caretaker. Honest work comes with a cabin. I'll put in a word. But hear me. This isn't me rescuing you. This is me handing you a door. Prove you've changed with your hands, not your mouth. And maybe in time we figure out what kind of family we get to be. She took the job, and she worked it. She moved into Pete Renner's cabin with the kids. Scraped ice off docks at 5 in the morning. Paid down her cards 1 slow month at a time. And never once called me for money. She called to ask how to bleed a frozen pipe. And how I used to make Sunday eggs. Around that time, going through the last of Hollis's papers, I found one more thing tucked behind the philosophy books on his study shelf. A folder of plans. And a deed to a separate 50 acres on the north end of the property. Free and clear, no restrictions. A sketch of an old timber barn, with Hollis's notes, asterisk Earl. I think this land might be the answer for both of you. There's a barn up here begging to be a workshop. I've set money aside to build it out, bunk rooms, a wood shop, a common kitchen. A place for people who've lost everything to remember they're worth something. People like you are on Route 9. People like Hannah is right now. Don't waste it on solitude. Build something. Asterisk, I sat with those plans until the light went out of the sky. Then drove to Pete Renner's cabin and knocked on my daughter's door. How would you feel about learning to build something? We called a Hollis house, after the friend who'd seen all of it coming. It took 18 months to raise that barn into a long workshop full of saws. And lathes, 6 bunk rooms, a kitchen where strangers learned to cook for each other again. We took in people who'd been knocked flat the way I had been. A widower who'd lost his farm, a woman robbed blind by her business partner, a young veteran who couldn't find the floor under his feet. The deal was simple. You work, you show up, you help the next person who's worse off than you, and you leave standing on your own 2 feet. Hannah ran the place day to day, and she was good at it. Better than she'd ever been at the borrowed life Trent sold her. She wasn't my employee. She was my partner. And we built it as 2 people who deep both learned the hard way what it cost to be turned away from a door. 2 years after that day on the porch, I watched my granddaughter Ava get out a little car in the gravel drive. 18 now, just graduated, her mother's chin and a sharpness in her eyes. She'd asked her mother for weeks why she'd never known her grandfather. It's good to meet you, sir, she said, formal as a stranger. Sir, not grandpa. A wall, and I knew the only way through was time and proof. She spent 3 days watching the people in that workshop. The widower laughing for the first time in a year. The veteran teaching a newcomer to plane a board smooth. On her last morning, on the dock, she said, "Mom always told me you two walked away from family." But these people didn't walk away from anything. They got knocked down, and they're getting back up. That's not the same thing. No, I said, it isn't. Grandpa, she said, the first time, and it caught me right in the throat. Do you think Mom and I can have something real? Not the polite kind. I think your mother spent 2 years becoming the woman she was always meant to be, I told her. And I think you're old enough now to decide for yourself who your family is. Not the one you got handed, the one you choose to build. She smiled then. The first real one. I'd like to build one, she said. Watching her drive off down that birch road, I felt something I hadn't felt since before the yard closed and my own girl turned me away on Route 9. Not the hope that other people might change, but the quiet certainty that a man can lose everything and still find what matters on the far side of it. Some stories end with a courtroom victory or a villain begging in the rain, but the truest ending I've got is simpler. It's a workshop full of light and sawdust. It's a daughter who learned to stand on her own before she learned to come home. It's a granddaughter calling me grandpa on a dock at dawn, and an old friend's name carved into a beam over a door. Watching over a place built out of the worst thing that ever happened to me. Family, it turns out, was never the people who share my blood and threw me out anyway. Family was the thing I chose to build with the people who chose to show up. So that's my story, friend. If you'd stood on that porch with that boat in the driveway and your own child on the wrong side of the door, what would you have done? Tell me below. Thank you for sitting with an old man a while. Hold on to the people who show up when you've got nothing to offer them, and be that person for someone else. The ones who threw you out don't get to define your worth, and the door you build for somebody else just might become the home you find your way back to. Keep going. The far side is kinder than you think. Asterisk, a small note for you. This story was created and fictionalized by AI to bring you a little entertainment, while carrying a warm and hopeful lesson about the family we choose to build. Asterisk,